Thursday's Thoughts is a weekly devotional from Keith Street Ministries. We cover a wide variety of life topics which we pray will encourage you. Keith Street Ministries is located in Cleveland, Tennessee. We would love to have you visit us in person if you are in the neighborhood. You can also visit our website at ksmcogop.org or find us on Facebook at Keith Street Ministries.
Hello, Keith Street family. Welcome to Thursday's Thoughts. I hope all of you have been enjoying the warm weather that we've been experiencing lately. And I know in my household, when it starts getting warm like this, usually we start thinking about swimming and being in the pool and enjoying time that way. And I was thinking last night about a story about something that happened to me when I was a little kid. When I was a kid, I was at a pool party. It was our end of the baseball season pool party. And a buddy of mine, I remember he was in the swimming pool, and this particular buddy really struggled with being able to swim. But he still wanted to enjoy the pool with his friends and playing there. And but his mom told him while he was in the pool, he said, "You can get in, but just make sure that you don't go too close to the deep end." Well, here he is playing with his friends and horsing around as we were. And before he knew it, he had wandered a little too close to that deep end, enough for him to slip, one of his feet to slip, and for him to start to fall into the deep end. And not being able to swim, before he could even necessarily react too much, he panicked as he was slipping and his head went underwater. And just as quick as his head went underwater, it popped up and he could only muster one word, and that was "Mama." And his mom, who was at the edge of the pool, saw what was happening and reacted immediately. And she just jumped into the pool as quick as she could. And here she was, her hair all done up and wearing a t-shirt and blue jeans shorts, because it was the 90s and we wore those then, and jumped into the pool and grabbed him. And what was a moment of panic for her son quickly turned into a moment of laughter, as they were just laughing at how ridiculous it was for her to be now a complete wet mess. But I thought it was very interesting to see that dynamic of the mom of, well, of course that she jumped in immediately. When she saw her son in trouble, of course she jumped in. Now, this story reminds me of one of the most famous parables that Jesus told, and this is the parable of the prodigal son. This is a parable that I feel like resonates with us so much that sometimes we almost forget that it is a parable, that Jesus isn't recalling a specific person who did this. It is a story that tells a lesson. So I want to read through this story, and I want us to really take a look at the story with some cultural context that maybe we haven't thought about it before. So this is in Luke chapter 15, starting at verse 11. It says, "There was a man who had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of property that is coming to me.' And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his field to feed the pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servant, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put on a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this is my son, and he was dead, and now he is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate." Now, I've heard this story told over and over and over again, and it seems like a lot of times the story focuses on the son, or one of the 2 sons. And I'm stopping here. There's more to this story, but for the point that I want to really think about today, I want to focus on the father. The question, there's one detail in this story that you could almost easily skip over unless somebody's pointing it out with a cultural context. And that is the fact that when the father saw his son from a long way off, he ran to him. such a simple detail, right? The question that I'm asking is, well, why did the father run? The story indicates the fact that he could have very well just really, really missed his son. And he saw him from the distance and he was really, really excited. So he had wanted to run to his son because he had missed him, because he had that much love for his son and was thrilled that he was coming home. And perhaps that is part of the reason. But I think there is a cultural context here that I think explains this on a much deeper level. The people that Jesus was speaking to would have been very familiar with a certain ceremony in that time. And it was a practice that would have been very fitting for somebody who had just behaved in the behavior that the prodigal son had. And this was a ceremony called the kazaza. If a Jewish son had lost his inheritance among Gentiles and participated in like all this shameful behavior that he had just taken part in, and then wanted to return home to his family, the community would have taken part in this kazaza ceremony, where they would meet him in the community with a giant pot and break it in front of him and tell him, you are now cut off from your people because of your shameful behavior. You are no longer one of us. You are now to leave. You are cut off. We reject you. Also, I think it's also worth pointing out in this time period that men of stature, older men of stature, they did not run. They did not run. In order for a man to have run, the Jewish men of this time, they had these long tunics, these long robes that they wore, just to be proper and to cover themselves. And in order for a father, a man of this time, to be able to run to his son, he would have had to pull up these robes, hike them up, and expose his legs. And Jewish men of this time, they did not expose their legs. They did not show their knees. This would have been kind of the equivalent today of seeing a man run down Main Street in the middle of the morning while everybody's drinking their coffee, running down Main Street in their boxer shorts. Would have been absolutely scandalous and shameful for a man to have done that. Men of stature did not show their knees. So the question remains, why did he run? Why did he run? I think he ran because the father knew that if he didn't get to his son first, that his community would have met his son, and cut him off. That they would not have shown him the grace and mercy that the father was ready to show his son. So when he saw his son from a long way off, he took off running. He was willing to take that shame upon himself, to pull up his robe and to do whatever it took for him to get to the son first, to shower him with love and grace and mercy, because he was just thrilled that his son was home. I hope you can see God the Father's heart in this story of what he's trying to communicate to us. Maybe you find yourself in a position kind of like the parable, in this parable of the prodigal son, where you have found yourself kind of far from God. And maybe it's because of things that you have done that are wrong, but the fact remains that maybe you find yourself, there's some distance. Maybe it's a lot of distance. Maybe it's not as much as others, but there's distance there between you and God. And sometimes it can be really hard to come to God, not because of the Father, but because of ourselves. We are so hesitant to come to him because of the shame that we have put on ourselves. Well, I want to tell you this. The Father is looking, and he's waiting for you. He has been watching for a long way off, hoping that you'll just come home. He is wanting to be with you again, to be reunited. And he took upon your shame upon himself by putting himself on the cross, taking your shame there and dying so that you didn't have to have this distance between him and you any longer. He loves you that much. And I can see how in this story, as Jesus is talking to them, how it would have maybe been a little bit difficult for them to understand and to take that in, that God would have been willing to do that for you. But here's the truth, that there is a real God who loves you more than you could ever imagine, and his forgiveness exceeds anything that you could possibly fathom. The distance between you and him sincerely grieves him, and he made a way to bridge that gap in the distance between you and him. So please, just come home. The Father is waiting for you. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Have a great week.
If you like this video, please click the like button. Subscribe to get updates when new videos are released.